In October 2025, a Lufthansa Boeing 787 crossed the Atlantic with 24 empty business class seats. The flight was full. The seats were fully functional. They were installed, bolted to the floor, wired in, upholstered, finished. Passengers walked past them on their way to economy. Lufthansa simply wasn't allowed to sell them. 4 of the 28 seats in that cabin were cleared on an aircraft the airline had already paid for. Now, if you're wondering what could possibly stop an airline from selling a seat that physically exists on a plane it already owns, hold that question, because Lufthansa was one of several. That same year, American Airlines took delivery of its first Airbus A321XLR and then left it parked in the Czech Republic from July to October, waiting for its interior. When the aircraft finally entered service, the doors on its new suites couldn't be closed because that specific component hadn't been signed off yet. Lufthansa parked 2 brand new A350s in the Spanish desert at Teruel. Iberia took delivery of A350s with placeholder economy seats sitting in the business class cabin because the real ones hadn't arrived. KLM's A350 debut slipped with a fully built business cabin flying empty. These are $300 million aircraft, finished, certified to fly, flying, and unable to earn what they were built to earn. All of those stories share one root cause. Boeing and Airbus can build the airplane. Neither of them can finish the inside of it. And that part belongs to a small number of companies most travelers have never heard of. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly who they are, why almost nobody can break in, and why a delayed toilet supplier once wiped $1.3 billion off its own sale price. We should probably start with the toilet. Go back to 2015. Airbus had just launched the A350, the most advanced airliner in the world at the time, and it started missing delivery dates almost immediately. Reuters and the Sydney Morning Herald both reported the same cause, the lavatories. A French supplier called Zodiac Aerospace couldn't ship them on schedule, and Airbus had to cut its delivery targets because the bathrooms weren't ready. What happened next is where it gets strange. In January 2017, the French engine maker Safran launched a bid for Zodiac that CNBC valued at roughly $9 billion. Then Zodiac issued a run of profit warnings. By May, Reuters reported that Zodiac's board had accepted a 15% cut to the price, around $1.3 billion gone, taking the deal down to about $7.7 billion. Over at United, the chief executive was asked about the airline's own delayed seats and said the airline was, quote, not happy. So a company that makes bathrooms held up the most advanced airliner in the world and lost more than $1 billion off its own sale price doing it, which brings us back to the question, how does a supplier get that kind of leverage over Airbus? There are 4 reasons. The first one is neither legal nor financial. It's physical, and it happens before the airplane exists. The large structures inside a cabin, lavatories, galleys, crew rest compartments, are called monuments. They're delivered as complete units, and they have to be installed inside the fuselage sections before those sections are joined together. Not for efficiency, because once the fuselage is closed up, they won't fit through the aircraft's doors. When Zodiac fell behind in 2015, Airbus was reduced to assembling monuments inside sealed cabins. A cabin supplier is welded into the build sequence months before there is an airplane. You are either baked in from month 1, or you are not on that aircraft at all. That's the first barrier, and it explains why Airbus couldn't just find someone else. It doesn't explain why there was nobody else to find. For that, you need to know what a seat actually has to survive. An aircraft seat operates as a certified structural component, closer to a car's crash frame than to furniture. Under a U.S. regulation called 14 CFR 25.562, introduced by amendment in 1988, every commercial seat has to pass a dynamic evaluation. In plain terms, the seat has to hold a human body through 16 times its own weight, thrown forward in less time than it takes to blink, and the test is deliberately rigged against you. So a furniture manufacturer with a brilliant product and no aerospace test program is eliminated right here before selling a single unit. Delays run even deeper than certification testing because the companies actually in this business passed those tests decades ago. They have the sled facilities, the burn labs, the engineers. The third barrier is the one that catches them too. Any change to a certified seat, and I mean any, is treated as a modification affecting its certification, including changing the color of the leather. the upholstery, not the frame. Now scale that up. Safran's Unity seat was already certified and already carrying passengers on the Airbus A350-1000. Moving it to the A350-900, the same manufacturer, the same seat, the same aircraft family, meant going through certification again. Singapore Airlines' version of that decision pushed a 1.1 billion Singapore dollar retrofit of 41 aircraft from 2026 into 2027, which means an airline is still flying a business class seat that first entered service 14 years ago. And industry estimates suggest there may be as few as 200 engineers in the entire world qualified to do this kind of certification work. The real problem lives one level deeper. Certification doesn't travel. A newcomer doesn't clear the bar once. They clear it again for every airframe, every configuration, every customer, forever. The fourth barrier is a door you have to be let through. Airlines don't shop for cabin equipment freely. Boeing and Airbus each maintain catalogs of qualified suppliers, and the airline picks from that list when it specifies the aircraft. The industry calls it line fit offerability. If you're in the catalog, your equipment gets installed at the factory. If you're not, the airline's only route is post-delivery retrofit, taking the aircraft first and then paying to have it modified in a hangar afterwards. Slower, more expensive, and far harder to sell. And getting into that catalog is a signal that Boeing or Airbus trust you to deliver on schedule, which is circular. You need a track record to get in. Newcomers do occasionally break through. Myris Aircraft Seating got its Hawk Duo economy seat onto the A320 catalog in July 2026, and TSY seats broke into A350, A330, and A320 programs. The gate is brutal. It isn't locked, so 4 barriers stacked on top of each other. That should still leave a dozen serious players. It doesn't, because the survivors bought each other. Watch the family tree. B/E Aerospace went into Rockwell Collins. Rockwell Collins went into United Technologies. United Technologies merged into what is now RTX, and the seat business sits inside Collins Aerospace. Zodiac, our late lavatory villain from 2015, was folded into Safran. Recaro Aircraft Seating stayed independent. Those are the 3 names: Safran, Collins, Recaro. Industry analysis from Valor Consultancy estimates the 3 of them together control something on the order of 3/4 of the commercial seating market, though estimates vary depending on how you measure it. And Safran Cabin claims to be the only supplier making complete integrated interiors for mainline commercial aircraft. Floor-to-floor cabins, galleys, lavatories, the entire tube, which means a newcomer with one excellent seat is up against a company selling the whole interior. And there's a design half to this that's arguably stranger. Boeing hired an industrial design firm called Teague in 1946 to shape the interior of the 377 Stratocruiser. Teague is still Boeing's cabin design partner today on the 787 and on the 777X. 80 years, one firm, one manufacturer. So that's how 3 companies ended up controlling what's inside every airplane. Air India's seat delays pushed 40 wide-body retrofits back to 2028. Delta is flying A321 Neos with a stopgap first-class configuration because its intended product isn't ready, and the money is enormous. Bloomberg reported Air France spending around 50,000 euros to build a single business class seat, and a Collins business suite is reported to cost somewhere between $50,000 and $80,000 per unit to manufacture. Multiply that across 30 seats on one wide body, then multiply it across a fleet. And remember that Lufthansa 787 with 24 seats nobody was allowed to sit in. In March 2026, the FAA cleared 25 of the 28. 3 are still blocked. The problem is nowhere near over. Airbus has warned airlines that delivery delays could persist for another 3 years and has publicly blamed both engines and seats. Boeing's chief executive has told investors that a fair number of 787s are held up, some of them still waiting on certification of premium cabin interiors. Which brings us to the strangest part of the whole story. Everybody in this industry already knows how to fix it. Nobody will do it. Angus Kelly runs AerCap, the largest aircraft leasing company on Earth, which means nobody has more to lose from delayed deliveries than he does. And his public advice to airline chief executives has been blunt. Stop inventing more seats. Take one that's already certified and your aircraft will fly sooner. And they won't do it, because look at what a cabin supplier is actually being asked to do: aerospace-grade engineering, at aerospace-grade certification cost, at furniture-grade volumes. a few hundred units of a design that nobody else on Earth will ever buy because it was made exclusively for one airline's brand. An automotive supplier survives by making millions of identical parts. This industry has none of that. And airlines refuse to standardize because in premium travel, the seat is the product. It's the thing that justifies a business class ticket costing 5 or 10 times an economy fare. The cabin is one of the few branding weapons an airline actually owns. So the trap closes. Everyone knows standardization would clear the logjam. Whoever moves first surrenders their differentiation while every competitor keeps theirs. So nobody moves. And the queue gets longer. One thought to leave you with. The cabin is the only part of an airplane a passenger ever actually experiences. The engines, the wings, the avionics, the fuel system, the flight computers, none of that is ever visible to you.